Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I had everything ready, and I believe not that one. Actually, let's try that one. Boop. Ooh, that looks really good. Okay, so actually no, I am probably gonna need a one that showcases the character design a little bit better. So I got a new character model, and huh. Which I'm probably gonna start using, like, in place of, the other one. I'm just name it Card or something. Okay. That's awkward. Okay, so yeah, I have a new character design. I kind of like it. Um, I'm probably gonna start with the ones that I use this one for. I'm probably going to use their like link down in the description, but whatever. I'm just playing with my Christmas present I got this year, which is lightsaber chopsticks. They're really cool. But I need to not be as distracted. Okay, so I have some things to talk about. While I just kind of do all this stuff, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've done this year. So I currently have up on my social media a media thread that I've been kind of keeping together. And I only have a few things onto here, but I've been wanting to talk about some of them for a while. So how about we switch gears? One second. There we go. Okay. So I've been wanting to talk about some of the things that I have brought up in the year, and I desperately want to talk about it. So this is the way that I want to approach this. So we currently have, uh, you know, we have gold, we have silver, and we have bronze. If for some reason you have come into this without watching my previous video onto the subject, this is usually the setup they have for like rating different like pieces of media. I will usually take an entire set. Let's just say I have about like 15 items, and I will make a vague cut down the middle and then another cut down the middle. So I have basically a good like half segment that is like the two like middle quarters. And that is this silver part right here. This is where a bulk of most of the items that I think exist in the entire like media landscape are. Serviceable but not terrible. And then everything above this are everything above that when it comes to like things that I want to talk about are sitting here in gold, and everything that are bad, like Lackluster, is down here in bronze. And you can have interesting bronze things. It's just that most of the things that are in silver are either not worth talking about or are so like mediocre that you just don't have a good framework of like how to bring the stuff up. So you have most of silver, and then you have the stuff you actually want to talk about. Then you have gold or bronze, depending on which side you are, and then you have the capstone on both sides of them. So for like gold, I have what here is representing a diamond, which I would refer to as a platinum item. Usually I only have about like one per like set of like 50 effectively, if that makes a lot of sense. And if I have like a set of 50, at that point I have to start implementing a stone on the other side to basically say what dragged the whole thing down. Because it is literally taking, like 25% of a whole set and then the one of that 25%. It's that sort of setup. And as I described, most of the things I interact with in a year is in within this sort of like spectrum of things that I like. And it's not that it's hard for me to kind of talk about these things. It's just that to kind of reiterate all of this is very awkward, so I never actually get around to doing it. Uh, so let's see. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna just go down the list of the media thread that I have up, or at least the stuff that I actually want to talk about, and do that. So I'm gonna skip some of the stuff that I've basically replayed this year as well, unless I really need to bring it up. So I think one of the first ones that I kind of want to bring up that I actually don't have on my media thread, that I'm actually just remembering now I don't have on the media thread, is some of the stuff that I've actually played this year? Uh, no, I'll do that second. I'm gonna go down the media list and then start implementing it. Let's see. Okay, now that I have all of that settled, let's just start going down the list. Okay. I'm gonna just line the games vertically away from the structure I've set up. Actually, I should probably throw that into settings. Or is it in game? Yeah, it's in game. There we go. Always stay, so there's not as many annoying like enemy mobs spawning. Okay, so first one I want to talk about is is the TV show Secret Level. So, here's uh here's like a rough sort of breakdown with it. Okay, several episodes I would actually classify as gold. I would actually say like a good like half of them overall. I would only say about like two of them like ever dip below silver, and then I would give like three of them silver, you know? And I actually have like a lot of gold on this list too, but the way that I describe that is yeah, the way that I described it is that you will often have a uh this is my problem with anthology series overall, is that you either make them way too far out when it comes to your topic that it doesn't really feel like that they're connected anymore, or you make the episodes too short so they don't have any firm plot. And that's where I kind of feel like that second one is the reason why secret level doesn't really work. I gave secret level a silver just because I don't really have a good other way to say it, but even the stuff that was there, I feel like started falling apart. And I never really want to be that type of person where it's like, "Oh yeah, it's bad because you did exactly what you set out to do." So it's not bad, it's not good. It's just sitting in this like mediocre valley. And I think that's a good call for it. Uh now I ended up downloading or I ended up getting Sonic Origins earlier this year. And while Sonic Origins is a package, I have not rated in full, and that's mostly because I haven't actually played everything in Sonic Origins. I will be talking about the Sonic Origins versions of these games. So let's just start stacking them up here, and then we could kind of go over what is actually part of my best things of the year. So we have Sonic 1 through Sonic Origins. Like that's the important part is that you might have like a different perspective onto this if you played it on original hardware. I have to basically specify that this is in fact Sonic Origins. Retro game. Okay. Um Sonic 1 is interesting. I played the Game Gear version as a kid, mostly through uh Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. And I would say that actually sitting down to play Sonic 1 for the first time was an interesting experience. I was able to get through it like in a single stream, but I'm still not very, like I don't really like 2D games as much as some people. So whenever I hear people go like, "Oh yeah, 2D games are like the pinnacle of like are the pinnacle of video gaming." I'm like, "Not really. I don't see where you're going with this." And so I don't usually enjoy 2D platformers as much as some people. So I put Sonic 1 down here in silver, and some people would say that that's bad. I would more say that it's to show that Sonic as a starting point is a silver, and it has so much more to go up and so much more to go down that having its classic adventure just sitting right in the middle of all of that is perfect. Um, which is spoilers. I feel like Sonic has a lot more variance in up and down, but I feel like Pokemon as a series, usually generally sits around in like silverish gold sort of territory. And the worst it gets is so much worse because a lot of it is so narrow. And like all of it is this exact level of good. And so whenever it goes out of bounds, it feels wrong. So let's put some of the other Sonic Origins ones onto here. I decided to play some of the other Game Gear Sonic games because, I was going through it. So one of the problems with Sonic Origins as a whole was that a lot of the music was taken out for copyright reasons, because famously, Sonic 3 has some music that was worked on by Michael Jackson's producer. So, quote unquote, there are Michael Jackson songs in Sonic 3. And to kind of avoid that, they kind of just ripped out all of the music and replaced it with legally distinct music, and I'm like, it's not really that good. I kind of wish that I did grab that mod for to kind of put in all the original music back, but I also don't like modded games too much, so I don't know. Mean Bean Machine is still a fun game, and it's still a fun game, but because the music was gone, it started feeling a little bit more flat. So that's basically my only real criticism with that. The one game I will have a problem with is a game I'm firmly putting over here. So I know for a fact that there are people that I interact with that love pinball games. Sonic Spinball has pinball mechanics, and that's the only good thing that I can say about it. It's not a fun pinball game. It's way too zoomed in, so you can't really see what you're doing really, and it's not good. It's not really that good of a pinball game. It's not a Sonic game. It's this weird experience. And again, the version of the game that I always played, hello horse. The version of the game that I always played had horrendous music, and I've just never liked any of it. Again, the version of the game that I played always had this like ear-piercing screech to it, so I never really enjoyed it. I think I blame Sonic DX Director's Cut with the way that I interact with a lot of Sonic songs, where it's like, this is the reason why I like this song, this is the reason why I don't like this song, and it mostly comes from DX. Most of the reasons why I will hate or love a game is its music, if you couldn't tell. So, Sonic Spinball, you're sitting over here. Now again, this is on mechanics, not really about music, but at least the music of this was tolerable. I will say that. Although the one thing that did surprise me is the one thing that surprised me was Sonic Labyrinth. I did not expect to like Sonic Labyrinth as much as I did. And I'm like, okay, I get the vision now. This is really fun to play. It's a neat little game. And some of the weirder Sonic games like sit on people's like worst game soundtracks of all time list, and Sonic Labyrinth has one of those. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm not really thinking about Sonic Labyrinth's music. I'm more thinking about its gameplay. And Sonic Labyrinth is an interesting game to play, but it's not. If anything, I would actually probably more put it right here, actually. There we go. So it's a little bit closer to that silver mark. Um, I get it. I get the vision now. I'm never gonna say that it's like the best Sonic game ever, but I would certainly put it above some of the other ones. Let's move down a little bit. Okay, so you know how I said that I wasn't going to put things that I haven't that I'm interacting again on this list? First, the first platinum on my list is literally the 20th rewatch of this thing in like the 2 years that it's been out. I watched so many YouTubers react to this movie specifically. Um, so let me just. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put it down here in gold, but still have the platinum like sign for it because it's out of contention when it comes to this year, but it's still super great. I'm gonna just list a movie. I'm not gonna say that it's like an internet horror thing. It's a movie. It is 2 hours. I have to devote a lot of time to watching it. It's like this is a movie. It's not just the fan animation. Uh, Basically, stuff like this movie made me swear off of Hollywood big budget films. Like I am completely serious when I say you should go out and watch Emesis Blue as a movie. And you could be like, I don't really understand the world of Team Fortress 2. You do not need that, but knowing the backgrounds of some of these characters would be nice. You do not need to know TF2 lore to understand characters. TF2 as a setup has these really stand out character designs that you could instantly like get something about them by watching how they move and how they talk and how they interact. I feel like only like one voice is kind of bad when it comes to that, but again, internet movie that's basically made on no budget. But if this was in theaters, I would have gone to see this like at least twice in theaters, and then bought the DVD, and then bought the DVD for my friend. You know, like when Fan Passion can make one of the best horror films of all time, why spend $25 on theater tickets? Like that was like my big review at the end of the day. You know, it's like why would I spend $25 on movie tickets when I could just get this thing that's on YouTube for free? And I think that that's like a major condemnation of everything in Hollywood right now. Like regardless of what you actually think about Hollywood, they are just not making good stuff nowadays. Like like AAA video games, they're not making good things either. Um but the funniest thing is that in in me kind of realizing this a few years ago, it really has helped me basically step away from like a lot of like the AAA video game the mass market appeal of AAA video games and Hollywood made movies. Like I've basically just sworn myself off of all that stuff at this point, and it has been so much better for me mentally. Okay, so more games that I had through Sonic Origins. I put them mostly in bronze, but I'll explain why. So I actually have two games that are on this list, which are both in Sonic Origins. I played Sonic Chaos. I don't know why I put that in brackets. And I played Okay. So both of these are Game Gear games, you know? And I've talked about the like Game Gear like Sonic 1. Sonic Labyrinth technically is a Game Gear game, and so is Mean Bean Machine, but like whatever. when I say that I only had to get through the first level of both of these games for me to call my shot at where they are sitting on this list, that tells you everything you need to know about Game Gear Sonic games. They feel bad, the kind of play, and I don't think anyone would fault me for basically just like putting my hands up, going like, "Okay, I'm good." It's I don't usually say it like this. I don't usually say like, "Hey, I'm not going to play any more of this," and that definitely puts it down here. Is it bad? Not really. I could kind of see what was going for it, so I'm gonna still put it technically in silver, but man, is it just not. I would say it's not worth your time, but hey, like other people would basically say, no, 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 give it a whole chance to basically figure that out. Another game though that I would actually put solidly in gold. I should actually start writing down genre. Like, what do they actually describe their game as when it comes to? Uh, I don't want to just write it down as, oh yeah, it's just an indie game, but they do state that they're mostly an indie game. I would throw it into the sim game category, So if you don't know the plot, the concept of Schedule 1 is that the game literally starts out with you helping your uncle, I believe, um like deal with like live in the Albuquerque drug scene. You're mostly making marijuana at the time, and you basically are selling some of the stuff, and then and then in the middle of the night you find out that your house is being raided. So while the cops are dealing with your uncle in the house, even though he's like in a wheelchair, he can't really do much, you kind of turn on the RV that you're sleeping in, which is heavily designed after, is heavily designed after the one from Breaking Bad. Which a lot of this game does kind of have a Breaking Bad sort of feel to it. You basically drive to the big town and you try to set up shop to do all your stuff. When you come back to your RV after getting some like help from your uncle in prison to like start getting connections, your stuff gets burnt down because, they don't want you on that turf. So you're basically working out of a hotel room that, doesn't really care if you actually pay after a few months, but uh it's the whole idea that it's like, okay, so I have this hotel room. I have a very limited amount of space to work with. I'm going to start setting up different things for the production of my item. So, in a way, it's kind of like Factorio or any of these sort of like some of these industry line simulation games, but it's just with the coat of paint that you are in the drug business. And honestly, I found the game to be kind of charming and was really nice to kind of rewind after work to play this game. It's had a few updates that I need to go back to, but it was a fun game. My computer right now can't take running anything like really big, so I'm gonna lay off actually playing highly intensive games for right now, at least until I can unless I could find a solution to getting some stuff. Uh, First game that I would actually put into. Okay, so this is once again a game that I would give platinum, but since it didn't technically come out this year, I believe it's still considered to be an alpha. So I'm gonna put it onto this like side list right over here. What do they actually list this game as? Let's see. Horror game? Yeah, technically. Once again, it is another sim game. By sheer technicality, it is a sim game. Voices of the Void is very fascinating. Okay, so let me just explain how this kind of game looks. If you've never seen the way that it works. So you get to the research station and it's dirty, it's full of trash. I was like, you kind of feel like this place has been abandoned for years. But you need to now make it your home because this is your research center for the next indeterminate amount of time. So you are. So what you have to do is you take basically a this video audio chip and you're slotting it into the computer. It is then grabbing satellite signals that are out in space, and then you need to basically render it for so you can do analysis on the noise, you know? Let me pause one more time. Okay. Now I can actually see my audio levels right now. And what you do is that you take these audio visual sort of information about whatever like signal from space that you're doing, and you send it to your benefactors. The problem is that you now have to take care of 24 different satellite arrays and your main base, and you need to now clean it up to make the area at least look a little presentable to yourself. You also have to, you know, make the place feel a little bit better about the whole situation while also maintaining the satellites that they're still working properly. So you have to also go out during the day to these satellites, get their telemetry data, like fix them up a little bit if they need problems, so you could get better signals. And then during the night before you rest, you come back to the base and you process the sound files that you got while in space. And all of this so you can upgrade your stuff, go out. And it's this is really satisfying sort of like cycle of go out, repair, come back, fix. And if you have any time and if you have any time at night, you clean up the place so it looks a little more presentable. The problem is, as time goes on, aliens start showing up and start messing with you, and so what would normally be like a I can't believe I found intelligent life out in space. You start going, guys, I can't have you bothering me in the middle of the night. I need to try to do this, or I really need to not have some weird creature just sitting on the path to the satellite array. I really need to get over there. And it's it's really interesting because it turns the whole idea of whatever these aliens are doing out over here is actually more of a nuisance than anything else. And I find that that's hilarious because whenever you take the fantastical and make it mundane, I feel like it adds this level of this like odd level of amazing creativity like to whatever you're doing. I love it. My analogy kind of broke down at the end, but I hope you understand what I mean. I can't really play the game as much because I'm terrible at looking at a map, you know? Okay, moving on to the next one. Um, yeah. Okay. So I decided that I was actually going to finally do it, and I was going to finish JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 8, the manga. Okay, so JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a long-running series that is separated by whoever the main character is currently focused on right now. And Part 8 takes place in oddly enough modern day, and by that I mean when the part started. It like started quote unquote modern day in like 2009, and it's been and we've been basically sitting there for a while. But when it comes to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as a series is where you have a bunch of people who get magical abilities to basically manifest part of their soul as a fighting spirit. And a lot of the times, most of the reason why people like the series is that you have these like weird fantastical like powers and ideas for like characters like clashing together. Uh in part 8, the main character's ability is that he's able to steal aspects from people using what he refers to as plunder. He's got a very like sailor sort of like aesthetic to him, and so what would happen is that he would punch someone, and famously, what he's done is that he punched someone, and the guy would basically fall onto the ground because he removed their equilibrium, their sense of balance, and then he punches the ground and steals the friction from the ground and basically like hits them hard enough that they just go like scattering. And now they can't get up. They can't even grab any traction on the ground. And it's like, okay, that's kind of funny. But the main story around it, around part 8, is to not really go too much in the spoilers. A lot of the aspects of part 8 have to do with these like weird, not extraterrestrial, but since they describe themselves as like the original things on Earth, these other life forms that are coming about trying to retake over Earth. And it's interesting, but I feel like that the most fascinating that this part gets, which is actually why I put it down in silver, it's not bad. It's just an underwhelming part for what it eventually becomes. The only really good part about it is the main villain at the end of the story, because his whole power set is a simple command. As long as you don't try to look for me, nothing bad will happen. And, very mafia esque sort of like line there. But what he actually means is that if you try to stop him from what he is doing, fate will intervene. Because his literal ability is if you're in pursuit, uh, a, a calamity will come upon you. And sometimes there isn't a good way to stop you, but you're pretty close. So fate will realign itself that something way like years in the past will have happened, and now will flare up to try to stop you. Like, if I remember correctly, at one time, it manufactured like a weird part of his backstory to give him a reason why he is now unable to pursue him. I'm like, that's amazing. I love that. It's such a dumb power. It's the actual like design of the stand, which is the name of their fighting spirits, is heavily based off of like absurd art. Not absurdist art, I believe. I believe that's what it's called. It's based off of the work of it's based off of a Belgian surrealist painter, Rene Magritte. If you've ever seen his sort of absurdist type of art, where he's like, finely dressed man stands in the sky, or finely dressed man, there's just an apple in front of his face so you could barely see any of his facial details. Stuff like that is just so weird, but it's mostly like a way of like showing that the world is a little absurd. And I get it. I actually really get the vibe. But part 8 overall I feel like is just a mesh of like just not not a lot of good ideas, and it just takes so long to get through it now that he's moved to a monthly format. Sorry, not a monthly format, but a less consistent format, if you will. So his chapters are longer, and he has more time to work on them. But I feel like that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure doesn't really get past parts 4 and 5 when it comes to like actual story writing, and I feel that the actual but I still feel like part 7 is the most well put together part, which is why I'm so excited that it's getting an anime relatively soon. I just kind of am worried about what they do in that anime. I've already seen some of the footage, and it's like any single time that there is a horse and we can zoom out as far as possible, you better bet that that horse is made out of CGI. So if they don't need to render something, they will just make a 3D asset and just have it like running loops in the background. And I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be so weird. But yeah, that's my opinion on part 8. I don't think that the series ever really got at to the absolute peak that it was in parts 5 and 6 again. Mostly because the writer is like slowly moving out of his the prime of his life, as you will. Uh, and I'm not saying he's making bad decisions. I'm just saying that he's kind of slowing down when it comes to his level of his a level of actually like writing like top levels of story. I feel like that he's the yeah he's past his prime, and he's just keeping the story going as sort of a to not disappoint fans, but yeah, he just doesn't want to disappoint fans, which I completely understand. Um, but I also believe that at the same time uh I don't think his writing skills are going to improve anytime soon, because the guy's like in his like late 60s, early 70s at this point. It's kind of hard for him to keep up with a lot of the stuff. But his some of the stuff that he's done for part 9, which has started to come out, started to reference a lot more contemporary ideas and a lot more contemporary like uh stuff. Like they literally throw in a Breaking Bad reference, and one of the main characters is like very like uh very I don't want to say noticeably. I'm trying to think of a better word for that. The character is the character is a literally the character is trans, and so it's a very interesting sort of like dynamic between like a lot of these more contemporary modern concepts and ideas where it's like, oh hey, like this is more about like going back to like the drug world of parts 5 um of part 5, talking about mostly that kind of stuff. It's also set in it's also set in America again, but this time in Hawaii. So like I'm gonna need to get caught back up in with part 9, but besides that, I would say that part 8 kind of is a lot of lackluster, but that I'm not holding it against it. So this is gonna be a review for everything up to where the game currently is, since I actually sat down and played it on stream. But I'm mostly talking about this particular chapter, since this particular chapter came out this year. Uh, yeah, chapter 3A. I would more describe it as a visual novel. It's more visual novel than puzzle game, technically. Although they did ramp up a lot of the puzzles in this game. Okay, so if you do not know the concept of the Coffin of Andy and Laylee, the whole idea is that the game was made from a game jam idea where the creator wanted to uh make two characters in a visual novel style format in which one of the characters their whole goal is to basically criticize you off of the increasingly absurd things that you are currently doing. And from a standpoint, chapter 1 is very well made in that regard. It is a full complete idea, and you could basically only play chapter 1 and get a lot of what's going on. But what most people talk about is chapter 2. Um, and during chapter 2, you can make two sets of choices that will skew you towards the different types of stories that you're going for. So, chapter 3 is down two of the sets of the story paths, which are both referred to as uh decay. And in chapter 3A, decay, you are following a storyline uh in which these two siblings, Andrew and Ashley, in which Ashley does not trust Andrew because of something that they're doing. I'm being a little vague on like what they actually do in the story because I feel like if you're going into the story moderately blind, all they have to do is basically say like two words and you kind of get like the crimes that they've committed. But the main aspect about it is that they're currently on the run from the law because they escaped quarantine um off of a parasitical infection that may or may not have actually existed. And and they just disposed of their parents so that they can use the remaining money that their parents had from like being bought off for their silence to escape out into the woods. And I feel like that a lot of the stuff that happens in Decay is super fascinating. I would recommend you to play The Coffin of Andy and Laylee. I will just say that there is some heavy topics that they talk about, especially if you start going down the other story path, which is more of a no, I would say that overall both story paths have this sort of vibe to it, but the Coffin of Andy Lately is a romance story in more of a like Greek tragedy sort of sense, where if you don't know what I mean by that, Greek comedy and Greek tragedy means a Greek comedy ends in a marriage, a Greek tragedy ends in a funeral. And romances usually are not comedies. Romances are usually two characters pouring their hearts out over the reasons why they still want to live, and tragedy will then befall them. And I feel like The Coffin of Andy Lately is one of the best instances of an actual Greek tragedy in years. Uh, but since the game is not fully out yet, I do not know the whole scale of what they're going to do, so I can't actually give it its full marks. I really should have actually finished this trilogy, but so let me just explain. I got a wild hair at some point. What was 7 months ago? That would be like somewhere around like June, like May, June, somewhere around there. And I decided I was gonna watch two movies. What is the actual way you refer to it? So I decided that I was gonna watch A Fistful of Dollars and very anal about making sure that my things are capitalized properly. So I watched two of the movies in what is known as the Dollars trilogy. Very famous spaghetti western films with starring Clint Eastwood. Uh, it goes in this order: Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Uh, the most well known of those films I have not watched yet, or I've not watched it in full scale, but I am going to talk about all three of them in the sort of like vagaries to kind of like keep the suspense if you ever wanted to watch them. But I would say that this also mostly applies to the good, the bad, and the ugly in a tangential sort of way, because a lot of people say that like it's like classic greatest movies of all time. And the reason why the Dollars trilogy is the pinnacle of spaghetti westerns is that when you talk about spaghetti westerns as a whole, you will oftentimes get to the problem where it's like, what exactly is this film? And a western is a very particular flavor. It is a spaghetti western is an Italian-made film that is copying the plot of not usually like straight over like ripping it off, but it is copying the type of story writing that you would normally find in a Japanese black and white film, like a Kurosawa film. Fistful of Dollars is the most Kurosawa of like all of the movies. It is really interesting to kind of see actually. So, Fistful of Dollars, he walks the main character, which is the man without a name, uh which is what they oftentimes refer to him as, the good part of the good, the bad, and the ugly, is that the man without a name walks in the town with a fake name. Um, and he just kind of wants to look for work, but in reality, he's he's actually there to claim a bounty on someone that he knows is roughly in the area because that's what he does. He's a bounty hunter. He goes into these Mexican villas for people that are on the run from the law and basically drag them back. And um and because this whole gang uh actually kind of wants to keep running the place, they're gonna allow him to stay around since he can't really find who he was looking for, quote unquote. And everything kind of goes upside down when the gang basically starts targeting the actual village people of the people that is, the good people that are trying to actually keep the town running. And, he can't have that happen, so he basically takes out the whole gang, which usually is the like ending note of most of these spaghetti western films is man versus army, you know, in which one man will take down an entire group of people using only their wits about them. And I feel like Fistful of Dollars is a good starting place if you've ever wanted to see a spaghetti western. A few dollars more, I might say, is actually better than Good, the Bad, and the Ugly just on story writing. And I can't explain why. There is something so beautiful about the way that the story kind of composes itself, but it's mostly about the man without a name, once again under a different assumed name, uh, teaming up with a preacher who is also a bounty hunter, who basically has this rifle that he disassembles and puts into his coat, and so a lot of his ritual is like sitting up on a building side, putting together his rifle, and then basically staking out somewhere. Very classic. Very classic Bible quoting sniper, if I will say so myself. And a lot of the story is going after this bank robber. How because the person that he was in a cell with explained to him how the actual safe is put together. And so all he has to do is basically go over there, utilize what he knows about taking apart the safe, and just steal the safe. So if he could steal the safe, get it far enough away from the town so that no one will find it, and then take the time to kind of take it apart, they could be golden. It's like there's so much money sitting inside that safe that it would be perfect. And the entire film is these two bounty hunters teaming up together to take on this entire group of bank robbers. And I feel like the way that the story goes is so well put together that I this is one of my new favorite spaghetti western films. Now, again, I still haven't sat down and watched all of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I wonder why they don't really talk about a few dollars more when they talk about like the entire Dollars trilogy as a whole. And I feel like that it's more of a an old boy situation with the Vengeance trilogy, where one film is so good it does not matter where the other ones are in the sort of like ranking of them. Because that one thing is so good, it disconnects itself from the rest of the trilogy and sits by itself. Because I know several people that basically is like, I've never seen the rest of the Dollars trilogy. I've just watched Good and the Bad and the Ugly, and I'm like, well, that's fascinating. I kind of need to see that now. Uh, that's gonna be a fun one to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about My Sims. So I played on stream, My Sims Kingdom, which is the sequel to. I spelled that wrong. Uh, which is the sequel to My Sims. My Sims as a okay, so it goes in this order. You have The Sims, which is a life simulator where you basically have a house and you have the people living inside the house and you can customize the space of the house and the people that are inside the house and you have this dollhouse set up for the game. My Sims is taking that idea with like how the characters work, their happiness levels and all that, and applying it to the format of a Animal Crossing like game. My Sims Kingdom then extrapolates that into a into a different sort of experience. To kind of sum up how My Sims Kingdom works is you are a newly contracted wizard, in which your whole power set is not telepathy, a telekinesis and 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 spontaneous item creation. So basically, you could transmute like any sort of material into other types of material if you have enough things. And a person, let's just say, says, "Hey, I want my house to now look like this." I could basically go, "Okay, disassemble their house, put together some of the stuff that I have on me to create the necessary things to build up a new house." And it's that city building element that like a lot of the Paraxis games sort of are known for, and turning that into an adventure game where you have side quests and you have major quests and you have different islands that are environments. And I have always loved My Sims as a kid. It is not like it to be honest, it is a pretty mid game, but it is a beloved piece of my childhood. If I were to put it respectfully, I might actually put it like closer to like right here. But I have a lot more things to talk about in that sort of vector. You might notice that I'm doing this like staggered sort of like approach to like kind of trying to keep things like leveled out. And I'm gonna try to maintain that, but I think I would put My Sims Kingdom more on this sort of axis right here than trying to push it further into gold. You know, it's a mid game. I like it. I love what they were going for, and the only reason why I played it was because is that My Sims and My Sims Kingdom came in a quote unquote cozy bundle. That's what it's called. Um, for the Switch, and that's the version that I played. I ran into one or two glitches, but hey, that's okay. Um, I still fundamentally love the game. I need to go back into it and actually play like the rest of My Sims normally. Oh man. Um, I just haven't, as I've said, I haven't been able to do anything streaming wise because of my computer. But My Sims Kingdom, I like it. It's a perfect 7 out of 10. Not enough to actually say that it's like amazing and you have to recommend it, but it's fun. What else did I do? Oh, okay. Finally, a game that actually came out this year. Technically, the game still it's a game that's not actually fully done, but I will actually refer to both chapters. Yeah, I will refer to both games as I will refer to both games as. Oh man, that's gonna be awkward. Let me fix something really quickly. Okay, I completely forgot that if I'm not doing anything with audio, I need to actually have something playing in the background. Okay, so finally a game that actually came out this year. So, Deltarune. Famously, the game is released in chapter batches, and recently last year, chapters 3 and 4 came out. Chapter 1 came out a while ago, chapter 2 came out during the pandemic, and it got a lot of eyes onto it when chapter 2 came out. Chapters 3 and 4 take the overall idea uh of what Deltarune was going for and just amped it up to like 1.5 million. I feel like Deltarune Chapter 4 is probably one of my favorite RPG experiences. Like it might be up there. I'm gonna need to also do another like video on what actually is my like top 25 greatest games of all time list. And when Deltarune is fully out there, it might be on that. It might be sitting up in its top 25. It's so fun. The one thing I will say about Chapter 3 is if you are getting into Deltarune and for some reason you go, oh no no no, skip me ahead. I'll need to know what happened in the previous chapter. Just show me the new stuff. Chapter 3 might be one of the worst chapters to start with, and it's one of the reasons why you really do need the buildup of chapters 1 and 2 to understand why chapter 3 is so good. What I will say is that the secret bosses of chapters 3 and 4 are dynamic opposites. Chapter 3's secret boss is one of the toughest experiences I've ever had on stream, and it's solely because of the way that I play video games. I I mostly play games on controller because my carpal tunnel that I developed in high school from like playing tennis and all that kind of stuff like makes it hard for me to sit down and type for a long period of time. At least on a keyboard. And it makes it difficult to play long RPGs with a keyboard. So oftentimes I play with controller instead of mouse. And that boss really does kind of more benefit from the controller perspective because the developer really likes Toho games. Not sure if you noticed, but um, that game is designed to be played on a. Deltarune is more of a game that is designed to be played with a mouse and keyboard. But a lot of the cute stuff that they added in to like have the like Switch connectivity stuff, especially with the like mouse movement stuff that the Switch 2 now has, is really cute. I like how they added that in at the end of Chapter 4. I will say though that the vibes of Chapter 4 is the reason why I'm putting Deltarune so high on this list. Like overall, a lot of the stuff that Toby Fox has worked on is platinum. Chapter 4 is what really makes it go above and beyond, especially things like the secret boss. That was like really a really fun experience. The actual story that is told in chapter 4 is amazing. The comedy is always on point. Um, the the one of the Halloween inspired bosses is the way I'll describe it, is one of the funniest pieces of like of parody I have ever seen. It's so fun. Parody might not be the word for it, but it is certainly like taking everything that he had as a format and then just making it a joke because it's so fun. So I recommend Deltarune. It's chapter 5 is supposed to come out this year. Um, and technically it is a full experience. You now pay for it instead of it being a free demo. And it's 20 it's roughly around $5 a chapter. It's around like $20-$25. And chapters 5 and 6 are supposed to finish off the story, and then chapter 7 is either an epilogue or a second story if you are going down one of the alternate paths. I believe that's how it's supposed to go, but either way, I think that whatever is coming next is going to make the game like go into the stratosphere when it comes to people's list. But I already put Deltarune pretty high. So, oh wait, not that one. Um, ooh, this one's gonna be interesting. Uh, so Mario Kart World, the launch title for the Switch 2. So, first off, it is a high quality game. Is it worth $80? No, definitely not. It fulfilled my greatest fear though, which is completely replacing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for me. I do not feel that there was a reason for me to go back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe besides finishing up some of the like races I never did. But I would never like if I go like, man, I am in the mood for some Mario Kart. I'm never pulling up Mario Kart 8 now. Mario Kart World has fully replaced it with its aesthetic and all that kind of stuff. Man, it does not justify the price point for it though, so it takes a few hits. That is so fun though. Probably one of the best Rainbow Roads they've ever made. It is so fun to play that level. And unlocking that at the end of the game is so fun. And the fact that you could only play it in that story mode is also kind of interesting. I would much like big aspect of the game is that like most of the characters have like an alternate outfit to wear. And as you're going from like section of the map to section of the map because it's an open world sort of environment with the courses basically being stretches of the open world map. You can when you're going from place to place in Grand Prix mode, you can pick up these takeout like roadside takeout food, and depending on what food you eat, the characters change outfits. So if you were like driving from like the northern part of the map, like down towards the like southeast part of the map, uh you might pick up like, oh, Mario is now in like an aviator outfit. That's kind of cute. And then when you're down there in like the southern corner, that's more of like a beach experience. You pick up some ice cream. It's like, oh, now he's in a like summer outfit. Like Hawaiian shirt type of stuff. That's really cute. So it constantly feels like that your character, if you are actually utilizing those roadside shops, change their aesthetic for the environment. And after getting all the outfits, unlocking all the characters, doing everything I can definitely say that it is an $80 out of 10 experience. Um, it is it's a fun game, but I feel like that it takes the hit because of the price point. Um, okay, there we go. Another Sonic Origins game. Uh, do I put it lower or higher than Sonic 1? Ooh, that's gonna make people upset. This is how I'm gonna compromise it. I'm gonna put it down here. And then I'm going to put this game right above it. Okay, so Sonic CD, it takes a lot of the stuff from Sonic 1, 2, and 3. Well, at least Sonic 1 and 2. And because Sonic 3 wasn't out at the time. And and it kind of ups the game because it's now on the Sega Mega CD. It it has better audio. It has better sprites. It has better like it is just a lot of like better presentation. The opening song Sonic Boom and the ending track of Believe in Yourself. What is actually the name of the song? Yeah, it is Believe in Yourself. Um uh are some of my favorite pieces of like Sonic music overall, and I will not be ashamed of that. Sonic CD has an amazing soundtrack. The problem is that to actually get the good ending of the game is dumb because what you have to do is that you have to end each level in the good future. It's like you have to like yeah, you have to do certain things to set you have to go into the past, destroy these things to create the good future, and then either get into the future or set it up. So you have to end the level with good future all the time to make sure that you get these good conclusions. So you could get the cutscene at the end of the game. I feel like that getting the actual like good ending is way too much work, especially if you do what I did and get caught in a uh, get caught in a bad loop, basically making it so that I either had to restart the whole game because because in the Sonic Origins version, it saves what timeline you're currently in instead of resetting you to the beginning of the level purely, which is what I would prefer it to have done. Because it didn't want to do that, I basically got stuck in a perpetual loop of starting in bad future and never being able to get out of it. It's such a bad so bad. I uh I just kind of get upset thinking about the actual gameplay of Sonic CD, but a lot of the aesthetics of Sonic CD are fantastic. Um and I would kind of put both Sonic 1 and CD on the same tier list. I to kind of fill it out. Sonic 2. Okay, so I would put Sonic 1 and CD right here. Aesthetically, Sonic CD is like gold. But I would say Sonic 2 is better than Sonic 1, and then Sonic 3 and Knuckles as a whole package is better than all of the other retro games. I would say that like in the whole scheme of like the retro Sonic games, Sonic 3 and Knuckles probably takes the cake. I would even probably put it further up into this, but I kind of need more space over there, so I'm gonna just leave it right there. So there was a lot I could talk about why I don't really like the classic Sonic games. That is far too out of the scope of this video, but I to summarize, I just don't like 2D controlling games, especially if it's from the retro era, not just a game that is trying to invoke the retro era. I feel like old 2D platformer games just don't do it for me, and it really does kind of the Homestar Runner gets something stuck in his craw. Um it's just it's just something that just irks me a little bit about the way that they're built. And man, are they fun games. Man, are they aesthetically pleasing. But actually playing them, for me personally, they fall apart. And I don't like playing them as much as the 3D games. Uh, ooh, another thing that actually came out this year. So we are currently talking about an anime. Now, when it comes to, TV shows, I don't really watch too much TV. I don't really watch too many like big budget like Hollywood movies. But anime, I will always devote a little bit of time to. Okay? I will devote a little bit of time to talking about an anime because I was let in on something rather fascinating. So this year, uh, Uma Musume Pretty Derby, released onto Steam. Um, how is the best to kind of refer to it other than just a gotcha game? I believe that there's an actual genre name that isn't, just gotcha game. Um, it says that it's a racing game. It says that it's a sim game. Um, I think I'll just list it as a sim game because it's not really a racing game where you could control the actual like way that something is racing. Man, I've played a lot of sim games this year because they're low intensity on my system. I haven't really played too much other games. Uh, but I will say that Uma Musume Pretty Derby is a gotcha game. You're going to lose money on the game just because they want your money. And so every month they're going to be like, do you want this cool outfit? Do you want this new character? Do you want this high end ability to like give to the characters? I'm like, yes. And it's like, you're going to need to give us at least like $200 so you can actually get what you want. And I'm like, I do not have the money for that right now. I will bounce out of that a little bit. I still think that the game is pretty fun. I like the character dynamics between the different characters, but what I actually wanted to talk about is the anime. Now you might be like going like, but the anime for Uma Musume came out a while ago. That's not the one I'm talking about. So, Cinderella Grey is the current anime that is running under Uma Musume to the point where a lot of people, as you can see by the way that I have worded this, is not even really connected to Uma Musume, even though it's in the name. Uma Musume Cinderella Grey, which is the story of Oguri, which is a you know white white maned horse from the countryside who is very autistic coded of a character where all she really cares about is basically running in her race because it's like she's always just wanted like she was born with basically glass bones and it took a lot of like physical therapy for her to actually like be able to even walk. And the way that she words it is I view walking as a gift, so I will run till my body breaks down. And I think that that's very beautiful and poetic and actually what happened in real life. Because if you don't know the concept of Uma Musume, is that each of the girls that are included in this game are based off of real horses from the um, Japanese horse racing history. They're usually notable horses that won a lot or are very well known for one reason or another. Like the one that everyone likes stating is two. They like talking about Haruura, which is this horse that um usually a horse will do like 20 or so races and then will slow down, not really want to do more races, and then basically like fight against their masters. And they'll be like, okay, after 3 years, you're retired. Haruura ran over 100 races, never winning any of them, but still got within like the upper echelons of them enough to make enough money to basically justify their existence. And a lot of like news commentators were like, this horse has lost 100 races in their whole like career. What the heck is up with them? It's like because the horse didn't want to quit. The horse kept wanting to race. They liked racing, but they never were good enough to actually finish the race at the top tier. So there now became this like mythical status of this horse that would never want to race. Sadly, that actual real life horse passed away this year, but that horse had so many fans for it. The other one that's really well known is Gold Ship, which is a horse with schizophrenia. Uh, uh no, literally. The horse has this like very bad anger problem. The entire family of horses is this the entire family of horses are like very ornery. And this particular horse like loved to just mess with its owners to the point where uh yeah, to the point where one of the times one of the times a lot of money was basically placed onto them to win, and then the horse refused to race and lost basically 17 million yen in like a single race. And the horse basically walks up to the owner, basically like turns his head going, I don't see you. I'm gonna just keep walking away. It's a very funny sort of like image. And the horse basically got this mythical status. Oguri Cap is the story of a country girl going to the big leagues, and a lot of the rules basically around what constitutes this horse being able to run in major races was changed because of how much this horse was loved, and then kept getting shafted um by the actual organization itself because of the rules about a horse running about starting their career in small district races and then going to a national level. And it opened up the way for like a lot more characters to like to show up in this actual game is because of some of the rules that were basically rewritten about how much this horse was loved. And Cinderella Grey, or at least season 1. Yeah, season 1. Season 2 is coming out later this year because I'm now recording this on the 1st, but like Cinderella Grey season 1 is an amazing anime. I would actually say that it's one of the better ones I've seen, period. But I would have to do like a top 25 of like of games that I have played in totality, you know? Uh and I think it's neat, you know? I just think it's neat. I would recommend watching Cinderella Grey as a whole. If you don't go and watch the original anime, uh, I don't really like its comedy, but you know, some people like it. I feel like Cinderella Grey is a good series to watch by itself, not even as like an anime, which is also what I would say about the next one, which is uh Uma Musume, Beginning of a New Era. So, beginning of a new era as a is not just a anime, it is an anime movie. Uh like so the main reason why I really want to watch this movie is because of a character named Agnes Tachyon, a horse that famously only ran 4 professional races in its whole life, won all 4 of them, and then retired due to hairline fractures in its legs because it ran so hard and so fast it basically blew its body out. And they took that sort of like idea and extrapolated that as an aesthetic for the character to be this mad scientist sort of character that's focused on finding the outer limits of the body. And it's so fascinating to kind of watch how they've animated this whole process. It is one of the most beautiful beautifully animated films I've ever seen. I recommend this to people that have absolutely nothing to know about Uma Musume as a whole. Um, probably should have watched the miniseries with the quote unquote villain at the end of the movie, TM Opera, TM Opera O. But not really too needed. Again, most of the story is around uh the main character Jungle Pocket who wants to rival Agnes Tachyon. And then Agnes Tachyon takes an early retirement, and the entire story is about what happens when your muse is your entire methodology for existing and your reason to drive forward is removed out from under you. And it is a great story about just what drives you and depression and all that kind of stuff. It is beautiful. I am not joking when I say this. It is worth watching overall. It it's a very great film. Um oh man. Oh man. Now we get to talk about this. Cool. Um yeah. I might as well talk about all 3 of them in this line, and I'm gonna talk about them like this because I feel like it's important. I need to talk about it like this because I feel like I feel like it's worth it to talk about it in this line and in this order. Okay, so so Solo Leveling is a story about a kid who, in this sort of world, there are these dungeons that appear, and basically like an MMO, a dungeon has a bunch of fantasy creatures that are inside of it that you slay, and most of Solo Leveling, the reason why I actually kind of like Solo Leveling, is the world building around what society does around these dungeons. Like you mine these crystals because they're a use of energy that you can now use as a clean burning energy source. Uh, the actual character designs are a little bit lacking, but that's mostly because I'm more used to Japanese aesthetics than Korean aesthetics. But the whole idea is that the main character is one of the weakest is one of the weakest characters to have ever been recorded. But he still goes out there because the little amounts of money that he makes pays for his sister to get through school and his mom to get the medical treatment while she's in the hospital. And one day, he gets into what is known as the double dungeon incident, where a secondary dungeon is opened up inside of a dungeon, and he finds this secret boss encounter. and he basically sacrifices himself to let everyone get out of there. And right before he dies, an RPG menu window pops up and it says, "You are about to die. Would you like to reincarnate?" And when he does that, he is now given the ability to level up. So while he's in the hospital, he kind of figures out, like, after he gets rescued, he kind of works through exactly what the system wants him to do. The system wants him to be physically active every single day, like do enough like push-ups and sit-ups and like do a 10K run every single day to like keep his physical strength up. And when he does this, the system will give him special dungeon keys to go into solo instances to kind of get extra XP, extra items, and it makes him stronger and stronger. Because what the system is actually doing is something that will not become apparent until literally the final 2 episodes of season 1, in which it will tell him, hey, you've been running around as sort of like an assassin build where you're more about like about like stealth and quick strikes and all that kind of stuff. And uh and do you want a job change? And he goes, okay. So he goes over to there. He fights through like generic fantasy like knights and like mages and all that kind of stuff. He goes, okay, where exactly is this going? And he gets to the end, in which he fights Ingress the Blood Red, who is this like armored knight who like is very hard to take out. It is probably one of the greatest fight scenes in the entire series. Is is the fight be is the fight with Ingress the Blood Red. And after defeating it and surviving the horde of enemies that then starts pouring out, and with the game sort of and doing an analysis of how he actually fights, it gives him his role. And it says, "Hey, because of the way you fight, you're a necromancer." And he goes, "That doesn't sound like me." And it goes, "But it's a secret class." It was like, "Do you actually want to try this out?" "Yeah, sure." And he basically starts getting told what is actually happening. So, to kind of start going into season 2 anime. Okay, so basically how his powers work and how his powers have always worked is necromancy. So what he's actually doing is he gets into a solo instance, he fights a snake. He leaves with a weapon that has the snake's ability. He goes into a situation where he encounters a another hunter who has a stealth technique, and after kind of defending himself against this assassin, steals his stealth technique. His whole power set is actually necromancy. And basically, as he goes through and he realizes he could like resurrect Igris the Blood Red to like be on his side, he can fight a bunch of these like ice bears to basically utilize them into his technique. He could he fights a bunch of like ice elves and like high orcs, and he could incorporate them into his team. Most of season 2 starts getting the gold territory, which is so fun to actually watch a summoner necromancer type character actually do their stuff. I love this part of solo leveling, but we actually need to talk about solo leveling Arise, which is the Steam release of the video game. which is an action RPG. The game used to have like this gotcha system into it, but they just gutted the entire like gotcha system for it. So now it's basically like a bunch of grinding to get all this stuff. Uh, I have not actually hit to the end where season 2 ends, but I got to the point where I got to start using like a bunch of my like necromancy powers. Really fun. I would actually say that Soul Leveling Arise as a game is the way you should actually interact with the series. Season 1, pretty slow, but you kind of get what they're doing. Season 2, amazing. I love like the visuals and how it is, especially with the Hierarch fight. It is one of the most it is a really visually impressive fight. I think that everything between Igris the Blood Red in season 1 and the particular episode where he actually gets like re-registered as an S-class hero in season 2 is like amazing fiction. I love everything about that. I feel like that the end of the season kind of leaves off on a weird note, and the actual video game kind of demonstrates what his upper echelon of power is, but they're not going to actually show what hasn't been shown off in the anime just yet. But they do kind of say like, hey, once that anime comes out, we will release the extra chapters that have already been out because we're caught up with the Korean manhwa at the time. And I'm like, cool. It's like I think that Soul Leveling Arise is the best way to interact with the series because it's actually in a video game format instead of reading a character going through a video game format. I like it. I really enjoy the game. So that is my review of Solo Leveling. Um, probably one of the coolest necromancer. Probably one of the best showcases of a necromancer slash summoner in a video game, and I am so for it. The reason why I don't like it as much is because I feel like the main character has a lot of flaws to him. I don't really like some of the actual like story beats as much, especially in season 1. But I think like when they actually start explaining what the actual story is, I feel like the more and more you get into the actual backstory of what is actually going on, Soul Leveling gets better. Um, which is why I put the video game all the way over here because you're able to actually interact with some of that stuff. So, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit to talk about uh one last gold thing that's over here before I start talking about some of the stuff that I tried to like pack into the end of the year. So, so I played a game called Atlas, specifically the 2025 oh wait, no, they actually listed backwards. So it's November 2025 update on Steam. Um so Atlas as an MMO light, as I would kind of describe it as, is an RPG that has MMO questing and MMO mechanics, kind of like Black Desert, but it's more of like a very small indie experience with only recently adding in multiplayer. Um, the reason why I'm talking about this update is because along with it coming to Steam and getting controller support, I can now play it a lot more effectively. And Atlas as a game is a little janky. It's made by a small team, but I would say that the actual experience of playing the game is really fun. I like going into like sectioned off little little mini areas, grinding enemies, getting a little bit of experience, coming back to base, crafting some stuff, and doing all that stuff. That Monster Hunter experience type of thing that is also an MMO light, and it's fun. Especially with new controller support. It's really nice. The real reason why people talk about Atlas is that you could have these funny furry characters that you could just like go like, okay, normal character, and the normal character designs are usually around like 5 to 10, and then you could drag any of their body parts and just move them up to about like 50 in terms of size, and so you could really customize the way your character looks, which which is kind of funny. Where it's like, hey, why is this game well known? It's like, well, you can make a very heavy set tiny character that just run around doing like sword skills, and people like not go like, so a furry game. It's like, yeah, a furry game. And it was a fun thing to kind of round up my year and sort of playing. It was nice, but let's talk about some of the other games and things that I have experienced in this year. Before I do that, I need to actually talk about what my actual stone for this year was. Now, I didn't watch too much anime that was coming out this year. Like, I probably should have watched a little bit of Gachakuta, or however you actually pronounce that, because I've been told it's pretty good. Um, I unfortunately had One Punch Man season 3 was thrust upon me. Sorry, season 3 A, because season 3 part 2 is coming out later this year, and it has uh some of the most egregious ways to kind of it's I hate it. Some of the worst aspects of the anime industry is how low quality sometimes anime comes out. And when you have great source material and then you put no effort into actually animating it, that's where it gets really bad. Uh, 1 second. Okay, now that I've back from man, if you couldn't tell by my like voice, I am not feeling too well today. Um, but yeah, One Punch Man season 3 does everything in the books to make it look as cheap and as and low quality as possible. From like not even wanting to animate like fight scenes to almost like uh to almost looking like that they traced the manga panels and then just had them like slightly animate by moving the panels sideways or outwards or inwards or like sliding them around. It was like, it's so lazy. I felt so bad for I felt really bad because the team on the anime probably got only about like a few weeks to work on each individual episode to try to get it out. And I'm like, it was like, okay, how do we get it out in time? And the team basically decided, well, we're not going to be able to get it out to the way that we want. So let's animate some of the fight scenes we actually do want, make them look nice, and then kind of half-ass the entire rest of the anime. So you have two good fight scenes, and the rest of it is terrible. There's been some allegations of like using AI to sort of like paint over some of the like the stuff, or like uh because like sometimes it's like it would have been better if they literally said, yes, we just retraced over the manga, but some of the problems do not look like that they even did that. That they were just going off, that they were redrawing off of just like looking over like and like not really double checking anything. it's probably the black mark of this year when it comes to anime. But I would be inconsistent if I didn't also add a video game to this as well. So, Black Ops 7 is a lousy excuse of a video game, which, again, the two things I put really far down on this list are games that you could almost say that, like, I would not feel bad if they basically came out and said, yes, the reason why our game looks bad is because we used an AI to basically buff out the scratches that we had on the game because we were too lazy to actually like do the rest of it. Black Ops 7 feels like it was written by an AI. And I am not being like I'm being very aggressive on that stance because of how bad it is. The storyline of the game could be completed in one setting and it's badly written and insulting to the player. And the only reason why it exists is to force people to play it in a lobby sort of environment and then immediately drop them into a multiplayer game. And so the entire you know what I should actually preference that is the actual multiplayer is okay. The what I'm actually talking about is the campaign of Black Ops 7. It is the most egregious part about that. It's so bad. There were a few other games this year that I could have talked about, but I just didn't have the money or the time to do all that, mostly because I had computer problems and all that kind of stuff. But I was able to at least kind of look at this anime and witness this game firsthand to kind of not want to engage with it as much. The funniest thing about the One Punch Man season 3 anime is that they animated the stuff that was non-canon. So what they could actually do is that they could basically like jokingly start season 3 part 2 at the beginning of the arc and basically be like, "Man, that was weird. It feels like we went into a time loop and now it's actually well animated." That could be like the 1,000 IQ big brain play, and I would love it forever. It would immediately take season 3 as a whole all the way up to like here as like a form of parody, you know? But up until then, season 3 at least part 1 is way down here and I absolutely hate it. Again, a lot as I said in the other video, a lot of the stuff I interact with, I want to be in this sort of like vector because this is where it's interesting to talk about. It's not interesting to talk about if it's literally like right here, you know? If it's like in these two spaces right here, it starts getting to a why am I even talking about this? Yeah, this like second half is where it starts getting to like be this like not as interesting sort of like vibe. Um Now let's talk about the actual good things that I've that I have that I've done this year. So, is it with an E? Nope, not on either of them. So it's Claire Obscure. So it's Claire without an E, Obscura without an A. Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Very long game, which is a turn-based RPG. So, there needs to be a little bit of a caveat, okay? To this. And the reason why I'm putting it right here instead of actually like with the other like cool things I've watched this year, watched or played this year. I've only played up to Act 1. I have been so distracted with other things that I don't actually know. Well, I know what happens in Act 3 for like both of the story paths, but everything up to Act 1 is fantastic. And what I actually want to talk about with some of the with the other game that I'm going to talk about, the things that I loved this year were going back to a feeling that I haven't felt like when it comes to some of the other stuff that I've really enjoyed, even with like Atlas, it's finding this vibe that I haven't felt with in a while. I need to go back and I need to play more Final Fantasy 14. Like I was originally gonna do like a whole like series on it, but a lot of the things with my like computer kind of fell apart. Oh, one second. Okay, I had to quickly do like my language app for the day. I slept most of today. I have not been feeling good, so I completely forgot about that. Okay, Clay Obscure Expedition 33. Um, to to roughly explain the story, there is an entity in this universe called the Painter, the Paintress, Paintress. I forget if it's actually gendered or not, but the idea is that every year a clock ticks down from 100 to 0, and every person who is above that age turns to flower petals and basically vanishes from existence. And the beginning of the story is literally a festival about the clock is about to turn over, and they are basically giving the people that are about to go away the best uh the best life that they can live for like that last week. Some people are celebrating through like just getting a little bit of joy out of their life. Some people are like trying to make sure that all of their like I's are dotted and T's are crossed to make sure that nothing that they are caring for is like left in the like out of nowhere. And the main character and his girlfriend walk up to the pier. The main character Gustav and his partner, I forget her name actually, which is really sad. I wish I had actually committed that to memory because I really liked her. Um, and they're sitting there at the pier as the clock turns over from 34 to 33. And since she is 33 and he is 31, 32, somewhere around there, she gets turned on the flower petals, and he basically like holds on to her like until she goes away, and he uses that as a moment of resolve to basically be like, I need to be on the next expedition. Because what happens is, conceptually, what happens is that every year two entire age brackets of people go away. The people that are now over the limit, people that were already 33, vanish. And all the people that are 31, 32 that are able to uproot their life will now go as an expedition. Expedition 33 is because it now ticked over and they are being sent out. They now go into this temporal bubble, this spatial temporal bubble that the Paintress lives in, to try to go as far into it as possible to destroy the Paintress, to try to revert any of this. And the reason why they basically can't keep doing this for too much longer is that they're running into a problem where the people that are leaving are not having enough kids to replace the people that are now dying out. So there's only like a handful of kids that are like around like 10, 12, and they are not. And within like the next two cycles of this generational thing, everyone's dead. Because the kids that are not old enough to have kids of their own or mature enough to have kids on their own, or the young adults like into like their like upper teens are not mature enough to like have kids and raise them properly until their time comes. This needs to be the expedition where everything ends. So Gustav, the inventor of like the gun that he has in his hand, um, is gonna be one of those people that are on the expedition. And the game instantly starts with an old man walking out of the fog, just seeing them and massacring like half of their expedition in one go. So instantly, old man that shouldn't exist anymore is inside this bubble, basically acting as like the main central guard for this whole thing. And then the RPG starts. I love how combat works. So each character in your party, Gustav is more of like a ranger sort of character with his gun, and the first party member you get is like a mage who has like elemental spells and that type of stuff to like implement like dots on the different enemies. You then get you then get a swordsman, which is more about like crit chance and dodge. So it's like the more I like dodge and attack, the higher my counterattack goes. And the character I just unlocked is the like card gambler that's all about like buffs. And I'm like, "Oh man, this is so fun." Every character plays differently and has different things that they need to build towards, and I love it. It's an RPG sort of thing that I haven't seen in a while. It's actually like a turn-based RPG where all of the characters have a like interesting, like very visible class that they have that is useful on a team. Unfortunately, you could only have three party members out at any one time, with a fourth slot in case a story required character needs to be there. And it's it's fun. I really like what they're doing. For context of how far I am into Act One, I have completed Act One, so I know what happens at the end of Act One, and I'm really fascinated to see where the story goes because a lot of Act Two is a mystery to me. But the actual reveal of what the world actually is in Act Three, I know. So that was spoiled for me, but more of like self-imposed. I'm like, okay, just tell me what the story is, and then they told me, I went, oh, that's a lot more interesting than I was thinking. Okay, let me actually like devote a little bit more time to this, and so I reluctantly basically said, okay, I need to sit down and play Clay Obscure, so that's been fun. The other thing that I so the other game I want to the 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 other game I want to show off is a game that that is let me see if I can actually get what they say. Interesting. So they actually say that it's a strategy game. Strategy game. Okay. So, let me explain to you what this whole game is. So, Dispatch as a game, or at least what has recently been revealed to be season 1 of Dispatch, is an old Telltale style game that is released in chapter segments. So this is the overarching like concept of Dispatch. Um, so Dispatch is the story of Mecha Man, or which is like a very well liked hero in their universe with like a bunch of superheroes and all that kind of stuff. In which he is the Iron Man of their universe, basically wearing like a big mech suit to basically take on stuff. Except when a villain who really wants the like really wants the the battery cell that is used as the energy source for the whole suit, the villain wants that energy source, which story wise, to kind of demystify a lot of the character, is he helped create that energy source with the main character's dad, and he believes that that rightfully belongs to him. Villain stuff. So the guy betrayed the hero network he was part of, killed the main character's dad, and has basically for the last few years tried to make Mecha Man's life a living hell to try to get that try to get that back. Sorry, there's a little raised thing right there, so I needed to tape that back over. Okay, so Dispatch starts chapter 1 off with with the Mecha Man suit being destroyed, and its pilot, Robert Robertson III, because there's been two other Mecha Mans before him. His grandfather who built the suit, and his dad who basically designed the new and improved battery for the suit. And he's kind of like moping in a bar, when he is basically given the opportunity of a lifetime. Well-known hero, Blonde Blazer, comes to him with a proposition of sorts. If you can help out our Phoenix program, which basically rehabilitates former villains and former villains or anyone with a record that is able to be a superhero, uh, if you can help out these Phoenix program initiates and craft them into like actual heroes, like we as an organization, as a corporation, can help you rebuild your suit. So Robert Robertson, who very funny, is basically using his real name as his, superhero cover effectively, so that these former villains who may or may not be associated with his backstory don't actually know who he is as he's helping them out. Uh, Long story short, they figure out who he is, and they're a little bit more charitable about it than one would expect. What just started auto-playing? Oh, right, that. Um, I had something playing in the background to keep my headphones still working, and I didn't know what started auto-playing. I was really worried about like the sounds that were coming out of my ears. Okay, so Dispatch as a game is two elements: the Telltale style choose these dialogue options to dictate your story path. You will oftentimes have an agreement, a disagreement, and a comedic answer. Very much a very standard operating procedure when it comes to like dialogue choices. Um, Very early on, you encounter the character Flambe, who was a guy who could light himself on fire, and you could either like splash the alcohol that you're drinking onto him and it would light his hair on fire. And so for the rest of the game, as you interact with him, he now doesn't have eyebrows. Or you could splash what seems to be the more safer water onto him and he will slip on the ice cubes and like get his tooth knocked out. Either way, he has a slight design change for the entire rest of the game, and it is a reminder that your choices actually do matter in this sort of situation. You have to cut someone from the team. That vital aspect of the team is now like gone for the rest of the time, for the rest of the of the actual like game after that point. You also have you could also decide of like who of these like two lackluster heroes to kind of put onto your team. And what do you know? Sometimes having those people on your team really does help with the situation because you can bring a character in to a situation that is specifically designed around, hey, I have the exact thing to help. But that sort of leads into the second half of the game, which is the actual like strategy part of the game. So you are actually looking at a computer screen and you have these nodes pop up all over a map. And you go into the node and the game tells you, "Hey, this is the situation. Let me just describe a situation of what's going on. Hey, there is this sporting event that is going on, and due to like a riot breaking out, we need someone to come down here to kind of quell the crowd, and make sure that like nothing bad goes on." And it will have like it will describe what's going on and it will like highlight certain words to go on to. And you'll be like, okay, so there's a large amount of people, you need to defend yourself, but you also need to make sure that like you are able to kind of like push back the crowd a little bit and also quell them down. So you go like, okay, I'm gonna throw two characters up there. The stats of those characters overlap onto each other onto a onto a onto a 5-pointed grid. You know, like one of those radial grids of like stats. And it will overlay what their characters are doing and the needed stats of the of what is needed for it. If they overlap perfectly, everything goes on without a hitch. But if there's even like a little bit like of what is needed sticking out, they basically shoot a pinball across the board to basically like bounce around to demonstrate like the probability that they're rolling. And sometimes you have like 70% chance of succeeding and you still lose. There are some times in which you have like a 15% chance of succeeding and still win because you just happen to get like good luck. All that kind of cool stuff. But like the real aspect of the game is sending the right hero for the right job. So you basically see like, oh, this has to do with mobility. You need to send in the high mobility hero. Oh, this one's more about like combat. Send in the high combat hero. Oh, this one requires like an intelligence check. You need to send in the like you need to send in the like technical like hero, all that kind of stuff. Is like, oh, this one requires you to not hit a threshold of power when it comes to your overlapping heroes, or else this might go bad. So you either send in a single hero or you send in two heroes that don't have a high combat rating to just get right under that. Or it's like, hey, if you hit like this threshold in a charisma speech check, you actually get double XP. And as it goes on, you could give these characters like better abilities to just go through. Like one of my favorite characters to kind of utilize in the game is the character Sonar, because what happens is that he is a werebat. He is a half man, half bat, half man, half bat, uh, all cocaine. And so like what he actually is that he is a very intelligent, charismatic character that every single time you send him out on a mission, there is a dice roll that he will transform into a monster bat form for the next mission, in which his intelligence will turn into combat and his charisma will turn into like his vigor defense stat. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing. I love this. And he's actually a really useful character to like utilize for your team. And one of one of the funniest things is that like the different characters have like quips back and forth between each other. I kind of wish that this would have happened more often, but this would have been really annoying if it happened more than just in one chapter. If you send two characters out, one of them sabotages the other character to get more points on the like publicly displayed stats screen of like how many like points everyone has, and like they'll like interfere with other people's work so like they could get more points and they could have that person look worse, which I found was kind of funny. But like I'm glad that they didn't do that more than just one chapter, because that would have been annoying if it's like, hey, these two characters are really powerful. Do not have them be on the same party with each other because they will just rip each other to shreds. If that was the case, like it would have been annoying, but it would have been an interesting aspect to kind of have sit in the background for the entire thing. Um, so the main crux of Dispatch is what is actually like is that, you know? But there's also like a side aspect with like the main character story going through it, him of his dynamic with like his coworkers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that if you want to see the pinnacle of what I am talking about with this, chapter 5 is the best part about the game. You know, besides the actual final chapter of chapter 8, in which the city goes into blackout mode, and Robert, who is a hacker. I like how it works. This his grandfather was the was the mechanic who built the suit. His father was the astro engineer who basically like figured out all this like tech to upgrade the suit. And he's just a dumb hacker kid who is trying to keep the situation afloat by basically living off of barely anything, just keeping the suit running with his inheritance money. And he's like trying to keep the suit together, but it just did not work out the way that he wanted to. But the one thing he is really good at is hacking machines. So every once in a while, you will need to like complete a mission by just hacking into like the safe to basically close it onto the bad guys. Or hey, there was like an actual story mission going on. I'm gonna hack into like this camera setup so I can actually see what's going on to like give better coverage for the hero. Like all that kind of stuff. It's kind of neat. Um so most of what chapter 5 is that is Robert is hacking into the LA power grid to turn the city back on. And there's this great moment where you're starting to like bring everything up and you just see a moving node in the sky as you get the notification a plane is crashing. Please get heroes together to figure out what to do. And you could either have the characters that have flying licenses to go up there and try to stop the plane or like help out, or people on the ground floor kind of help out. And at first you're like, I only have like one character that knows flying. I can't really do that. What can I do for like ground stuff? And then you have like the big bolty construct golem could either catch the airplane as it comes down. You could have Malevola, who's a demon swordsman type of character, teleport up to the plane to like uh help all the characters out, help all of the people out of the plane so that it can so that they can orient the plane to a safe place for it to crash, but still save everyone. Or you could have Prism, who is this light manipulating hero, to kind of use that as sort of like a here you could go for a safe landing type of thing while everything is going on. And I love that. I love how these like little minor things can become these really cool like character moments for these different characters in the combat, which then the chapter transitions to them going to a bar and they're all hanging at a bar together. Um, and there's this moment where it's like it starts getting a little bit hairy, jumps ahead into the future in which all of them are just beat up, and it's like, what happened? And then it intermediately cuts back to the bar fight that they had. It's so fun to just watch all that happen, and it culminates with that chapter of like, do I tell these people that I just had a really great night with, but I know that there is someone on this team who actively hates me and might kill me. Um, do I reveal my secret to them so I could become closer to them now that like we've become sort of like this weird fucked up family, as he calls it. And the the voice acting for this game is immaculate. I love the voice acting for this game a lot. Um, and I like the main character is voiced by Aaron Paul, which is if you don't know, Jesse from Breaking Bad, and it's really fun. I liked hearing Jesse Pinkman doing a gruff growly voice the entire time, and so I never really sat there and said, "Yep, this is Jesse." This is Robert. Like it's it's probably like some of the best voice acting I've heard. Um, they even have like several YouTubers like coming in for like character stuff. Um, one of my favorite ones is uh who actually plays so one of the characters you can recruit onto your team is one of the people that you can recruit onto your team is is um is the hero Waterboy, who is voiced by the YouTuber Joel Haver. Um, and he is a guy who basically every part of his body uh can expel water at like a higher than normal amount. And and he's almost like a joke character a lot of the times where he is sitting there and he's just like, I'm more of a janitor than an actual like hero, but yeah, I can help out. And then it's like, hey, Waterboy, can you go to this fire to like help like put things out? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. It was like, hey, we had this problem with the sewers backing up. You could use your like water powers to like help clean up all this mess. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. And you could see this like shy, timid character become an actual like hero. And some of like his best dynamics are like with the characters that are like that you wouldn't associate with like having a good like synergy with him. But like that's one of the brilliant things about this game is that like you have so many characters just butting heads that you get these really great character moments. The other character that is really cool is the Superman analogy for this game. And one of the reasons why it became my game of the year for this year. Like Dispatch became my game of the year because of a few interactions that I had with a lot of the characters. Like as you can kind of tell, I've spent a lot of time just talking about Dispatch as a whole. You know, it's like um you have the hero Phenomenon, who is the Superman sort of like uh which is the Superman version for this game. And when you hear, "Oh man, you have a Superman in this game," a lot of people immediately the first thing they think of is, "Oh no, uh it's it's um it's it's Omni-Man from Invincible. Oh no, it's oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name from The Boys? uh the blonde loser guy. Um, in which it's like, oh, what if it's Superman but terrible? It's like especially with like Omni-Man basically making him have Superman's backstory, Superman's powers technically, and that whole stuff. But then have the interesting thing with Phenomenon as a character though is that he's not evil, he's just depressed. And there's this moment where he's sitting on the hood of a car because he kind of collapsed and made the car collapse by just laying onto it. And your character basically goes out there to basically like talk him down from flying into the sun. Uh, and because he got broken up by his girlfriend, and he's not really used to understanding human emotions and all that kind of stuff, and he doesn't really understand a lot of this stuff. And you kind of talking to him like a therapy session is one of the more fascinating aspects about the whole thing. Because the reason why I don't like Invincible and the reason why I don't like The Boys is because when they say, like it's a gritty, realistic take on superheroes, what they mean is that everyone is a jerk to everyone else, and there's a lot of blood and guts everywhere. And while Dispatch does have blood, and they do have like a lot of adult topics, the characters are a lot more realistic in the way that they just talk about real stuff. Where it's like, hey man, it was like it's like you're being this like hero shtick, it's like with all that type of stuff. But like at the end of the day, when you find the guy that killed your dad, are you gonna kill him back? And they give you the voice they give you the dialogue option of yes, no, or I don't know at this point. And the game will remember that. Clementine will remember this. It's by the same people like did the Walking Dead the Walking Dead video game with like all those decisions. And and the way that the game remembers all of that and like how you interact with the different characters makes that ending segment so great. So the reason why Dispatch is my game of the year is because of one thing at the end of the game, which I am gonna spoil because I feel like that it's kind of important for me to talk about it. So the main villain of the whole thing has effectively two different powers that he's working with. He's a skilled inventor and he's got all this tech sort of stuff. So everyone that works under him, he could just implant tech onto them and using his own like internal battery sort of system, he's able to amplify other people's abilities, which is kind of cool. As like a support hero, he's really neat. But the thing is that he's very conceited. He can see the future, or at least he can predict. He says he's predicting the future, but it's more like he's running a lot of algorithms in the background to kind of predict what's going on. And in a way, he is, predicting the future. But as I've said a lot of the time, you can't really predict the future. You can only really expect the worst. And, it's like they get the power set working for his suit. It's all working. The bad guy is attacking the dispatch building itself. So all of the like side character heroes that you normally wouldn't see out into the field are all like helping out. And the main villain basically says, "I want you to come out of the suit. I'm going to give up my hostage and and you will give me that power unit as was promised to me." Um if you don't know why I'm chuckling is because I just remembered the meme. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not actually finishing that." Um uh and you will give it to me. And he's sitting there and he thinks about it and he steps out of the suit, and he is holding in his hands, he's like sitting up into the suit and he's looking at the two batteries, the one he just pulled out of the suit that's working, and the prototype one that was made earlier into the chapters. And he's thinking about it, and he steps out of the suit and he holds up his hand to drop it into his, and three dialogue options appear: drop the fake one, drop the real one, or both of them at the same time. And at that time, I held up both of my hands and I'm like, this is the greatest game of all time. Because it's like, you give him the fake one, he just throws it away. You give him the real one, and you just skip like all of the. And you skip to him basically just to him being just like, oh yeah, I win, all like all that kind of stuff. If you drop both of them, you get a very interesting scene where he's looking at both of them and he looks up to you and goes, what is this? And he goes, well, I can't outplay you. Clearly your tech is better than mine. You can control it better. I'm not going to be able to fight you in the suit. I'm not going to be able to fight you on terms of like wits, because you've got this like computer running in your head and you're far more intelligent than me. So, I gave you both of them. Let's see where luck treats you. As the villain basically like takes his like mask away, just looks right at Robert's face and says, "Fuck you." And I love this story so much because the game is willing to have these character moments. And Dispatch and Clear Obscure both together is some of the best character writing I've seen in years. And like, and it's fantastic. I love it so much. I reckon like I didn't even go into like the whole like dynamic between, do you want to like start a romance with your boss Blonde Blazer, um and like learn sort of her backstory, or start a relationship with the like edgy edgy alt girl, um who on the team that can like go invisible. And it's like that whole dynamic is another whole aspect of the game, which I, for your information, there was a scene in chapter 7 that is that I have referred to as the I forgive you scene with Invisigal, and I think that that is another one of those amazingly well written scenes, but it takes far too much time to explain why I love that so much. But so I will just say Dispatch Game of the Year. It is probably the best thing that I've seen this year. Um, but when it comes to movies, something better than this came out this year. This thing that I would recommend to just normal people of like, hey, watch this movie. Is like, it's probably one of the best movies that came out of all time. There's a movie for me that is better than that, and that is Chainsaw Man, the Reze arc. I would say what the actual name of the arc is, and thankfully, they changed the name of the arc to not include the name of the actual villain of it, because that kind of gives the game away if you don't really know what's going on. So, Chainsaw Man is a series I really enjoy. So the whole power set of Chainsaw Man is very simple. You have an object. Let's just use the actual analogy that they use in the anime, where where uh you have uh a coffee. And normally people wouldn't be scared of a coffee, maybe of just like, oh, I spill it onto me, or any of that type of stuff. But it's not just fear. It's a lot of other different types of emotions, like love and affection, or like overall like any sort of emotion you could really feel for it. The more you have in your mind and you're thinking about it, is how powerful a demon of that object will become in hell. So you have this coffee demon that might not be as really powerful as the car accident devil, or um, or the fire devil, or the concept of hell devil, or the darkness devil, this like primal fear, you know? And so clearly it's gonna get beaten out by another demon in hell. And for some reason, because of some weird quirk, several years ago, any demon that gets like killed in hell will appear on Earth. And so you have all these demons sort of running around, in which now like every single government on the face of the planet now has to kind of like retrofit their entire societies to now like making sure that like a demon doesn't just like well, they're called devils, but like demon rolls off the tongue a little bit better for me. So these devils will walk around and they need to find a way to kind of take them out. So a devil hunter will oftentimes make a contract with a lesser devil to give them the ability to kind of take out these devils. And as the boss of the main character puts it, Denji is a chainsaw. I find that interesting. And the gimmick with Denji is that he is one of the uh uh slight spoilers, but they kind of explain what this is in the next arc that is about to be animated. Uh Denji is what is known as a weapon. He has a demon inside of him that he has made a living contract with, so that the devil will give him his powers. And so, using a method to turn on the ability, he will jump from human to fiend and back. A fiend basically being what happens when a devil is currently piloting a corpse to basically like move around in the world. Usually they will have like some weird thing like mutate like a piece of their body, but it's mostly that their head will not be fully human. So like the shark devil has like the like front nose of the shark just like sitting on their head, like covering up their eyes. Or the blood fiend has she has these like massive horns that like grow with how much blood is inside of her body. Uh and depending on how much blood is on the ground, like she could like conjure up weapons and all that type of stuff. Very neat. A lot of their power sets are based off of like the emotions that people have for them. So the shark fiend is able to swim through land and all that type of stuff. So he's powerful in and out of the water. And there's two stories going on. Denji, the main character, uh, starts dating this girl that he meets at a with a chance encounter named Reze, uh, and all that type of stuff is going on. And meanwhile, uh, his roommate Aki, because they need to like help the blood fiend power basically decompress after a fight that she had in which she absorbed too much energy. He is being paired up with the angel devil, which seems like oxymoronic, having an angel also be a devil. But the way that they explain it is that angel is more of the fears of real religious persecution. And so of course he becomes like the most attractive femboy of all time. Very funny. I see what you're doing there, writer. Um and so there's also another great character. He doesn't get a lot of spotlight in this movie, but he's prominently shown in the next arc, which is the violence fiend, which he's not violence as a concept. The kanji correctly is random acts of violence. So unless he gets the jump on to someone, he can't actually take him out properly. So he tries to attack the bomb devil later on into the movie, and he like hits her, brings her to the ground, dents the floor, uh, dents the concrete, and like makes the car shatter. And then she like prepares for a fight, and he goes, "Well, I'm out of here," and he just like leaves the fight and like walks through a door. It's like I can't take you on. It's like I'm a yakuza guy. I can't come into here and have an actual fair fight. I need to take you out stealthily. I need to like be the person who hits first, hits last. I love Violence Fiend. The subtitles actually like gave out what his name was. I rewatched it recently and found out that they did that, and I was like, "Whoa, that's weird. I didn't expect that." But that was really fascinating that they just completely are just like, yeah, his name is ah crap, what is his name? It begins with a G, but what is it? How do you actually pronounce it? Yeah. So in the anime, whenever they have his subtitles come up, they just blatantly say like, yeah, his name is Galgali, and it's like why is that like a weird thing to announce? It's like because they don't actually say his name until like the end of part one, quote unquote, as it's called, which I think Chainsaw Man is incredibly strong in part one. I think part two is a little bit less strong. Um, but Galgali is one of my favorite characters in part one, just because of like his demeanor and like a lot of like the theories about him. I like him, and it's all comes from the fact that he wears a plague doctor mask to mitigate his anger. The Chainsaw Man as a whole has a lot of like movie references and aesthetics to it, and you could definitely tell that Galgali is this sort of like weird outlier in a lot of the stuff. But then when you see like a lot of like how he kind of fits into the jigsaw puzzle of all of it, like in the opening of season one, there's a really great moment where in the opening of Chainsaw Man, they reference No Country for Old Men, and it's just a scene of Galgali sitting on the bed, slowly taking his shoe off, like Anton in that movie does, and you instantly understand what his character is. Just like how in the opening for season one, you see the scene from Jacob's Ladder, but instead of the main character's son sitting on the stairs to like lead his dad up to heaven after he finally like gives up the ghost, as it were. Sorry to randomly spoil Jacob's Ladder, by the way, but uh but instead of that, Angel is sitting up there because Angel's whole thing is that like the more that he touches someone, the faster they die, because that's how he feeds. He gains energy from living things by removing like how long they have left to live. And he uses that as a sort of like way that he compartmentalizes his good half with his bad half. And I don't know, it's really cool. I like a lot of the world building stuff in Chainsaw Man. The fight scenes in the Reze arc are fantastic because the whole like second half of the film, that the first half of the film is a romance story between Denji and his new girlfriend, and the second half is the fight between Chainsaw Man and the Bomb Devil, who basically can like separate different pieces of her off and throw them and turn them into bombs. And and it is such a fascinating, like visually immense movie. I love watching the fight scene from this. It's so well animated. It's Mappa does a lot of really good work, and it's really sad that it's like to kind of hear like, yeah, their staff is overworked like almost like every single time. And I'm sitting there was like, man, between Jujutsu Kaisen season 3, this movie just coming out, Chainsaw Man season 2, man, I hope they got some amount of sleep and some form of like monetary compensation to give to their families, man, I feel so bad for them. They do such good work, but man, I would rather take this feels really bad to say. I would rather take art that is made with love and care, even if it's overworked, than something that you can tell had no love or effort into it. You know? It's why I feel really it's why I feel good talking about this because the music is amazing, the visuals are amazing, the story is amazing. It is my like it is probably like my favorite thing I have interacted with this year is this movie. It is the best thing that has actually come out this year. Um, there was like two other things I wanted to talk about, but I don't really feel confident like putting them onto this list just because of their content, but I've also looked over and seen that I've almost been like 3 hours. Sorry for anyone that actually sat down to watch any amount of this. Uh, and like actually sat through like the whole thing with like my technical problems and stuff. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this year as a whole. Once again, as I said before, most of the stuff that I actually interact and talk about, I've already weeded out like a major portion of like the like silvers and like bronzes that I didn't think I was going to interact with. I've already weeded a lot of that out. Again, like if I were to like say like everything that actually did come out this year, I would have like some like silver there up to here, and I would probably have like gold up to about like here, and I would probably add like one more platinum. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now. Um, so Hollow Knight Silksong is a game that I have put basically no time into, but I love the game's aesthetic so much. Every single time I look at the game again, I just sit back and go, "Oh, it's so beautiful." It took so long for this game to come out. It's so but and I'm a little upset about how long the game took out, but the game almost compensates that for being such a low price point. And they're like, "No, no, no. We would rather not nickel and dime our like audience who has been waiting so long for this game to come out. The game is out. Love the game. It is now there. The DLC is coming out soon. I wish I have put any amount of time more into it. Hollow Knight Silksong would be in contention for Game of the Year, just like Clair Obscura, but I just haven't put enough time into it. And like another another game that I would also put right here, I would actually probably put it into like gold because I do have a little bit of problems. Is Pokemon Legends ZA. I have not I have not finished Pokemon Legends ZA right now, which is also why it's down onto this list. And I would say that like the heights of Pokemon again makes it like one of my favorite series of all time, right next to like Sonic. But it has some like low points, and I feel like that where they're going with Legend ZA is neat. I really like where they're going with this. I would have preferred if in around like generation like 5 like they actually like did lean a little bit more into the 2.5D aesthetic of having 3D environments with pixel sprites and just made those pixel sprites a little bit more in depth. But the problem is that they are on a system that wanted to boost that wanted to tout out the the 3D aspect of you know the Nintendo 3DS. So they had to move from a 2D format to a 3D format, and I don't think that the series has ever really recovered past that. But what they are currently doing with the Legends side series, where they're having these open world environments, or at least in ZA, Zeta a pseudo open world environment, where it's all just in one town. I think that they're moving into a lovely direction. And it sounds like what they want to do is they want to have a staggered sort of release where they have one main game that is it's an action RPG. What else did I list as an action RPG? Soul Leveling Arise, right? Um, is that you have Legend ZA, which is this action RPG, which is instead of it being turn-based, where these two characters are based off of their speed, and then they have their movements come out, and then they have a rock paper scissors match with their typings. Instead, you are basically sitting behind cover, watching a person walk around. They have their Pokemon out. You know that that Pokemon is a ground type, so you swap out to your water type Pokemon, and you send that water type Pokemon out. And the trainer's like, "Huh?" And as they're like realizing something is happening, your water type Pokemon has just hit their ground type Pokemon with a sneak attack from the back, making extra damage, immediately knocking them out. The trainer then basically grabs their other two Pokemon and like selects one of them as you basically bring your Pokemon back, and then you throw theirs out, and now you're having this real time fight with it. I like what they're doing with ZA. I do not I do not take anyone's opinion of saying, "Oh, I hate ZA. It's so bad. The graphics are in 4K. It's not running at 120 frames per second. It's not available on Steam. So it's clearly a bad game." I do not take those people seriously. um, I think where Legends is going with ZA is really useful because it removes Pokemon from the rock paper scissors mentality that it's been sitting into, and turning the rock paper scissors mentality into a new avenue of strategy, because you go into a situation knowing that you have five other Pokemon, and you're sending out a Pokemon that is usually like a very fast hitter, that you get to micromanage their moves in your bag before you do anything. You send them out, you hit them with a very quick move that is counter to their who it has a typing that is counter to them. Eliminate that Pokemon, and then as they are swapping to another one, you could change up your strategy, like figure out like, oh, I can now like have like a setup move. I can now put up like a buff, swap out to another Pokemon. That buff is now still out because it's now working off of a timer instead of a turn-based system, and now get like a single move out before that like buff goes away. I like what they're doing with ZA. The story needs a little work. I like what they're doing with the character designs, with the character motivations and all that kind of stuff. I like what they're doing. I feel like that ever since that I have not properly enjoyed a Pokemon game with low to no caveats um since I want to say the X and Y games came out, since it's set in the same region, but it's mostly been since Ultra Sun and Moon, in which I have just not fully enjoyed a Pokemon game since Ultra Sun and Moon. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. What I will say though is that this is a fun game. The DLC came out recently. I still need to put a little bit more time into it. Look, people that know me. Okay, you are now 3 hours into it, so this is like a secret thing. Don't tell anyone. But uh I am working on a project about Legend ZA that is going back to my roots as a writer. I am really looking forward to actually putting this thing out, and I'm just putting this at the end of the video to kind of like hide it. But I might be working on a bigger project. I'm gonna let this video up upload. I'm gonna finish writing some of the stuff for this. I hope to get this out within the next month, or at least like the first like few chapters for it. I have put it on the back burner so long, and now that I feel a little bit more confident to put things out into the world again, it's gonna be really fun. So this is my year overall as a as like a whole like setup, as you can kind of see. Again, one of the coolest things about having a setup like my rating system is that almost like as I've actually showcased visually, I can showcase a lot of how I've kind of interacted with media as a whole this year, and you can kind of understand where my brain is at. Like a lot of these smaller things are things that I was kind of like dipping my toe into to kind of like see if I was going to enjoy it. And if I did enjoy it a little bit, it would have been in like silver. If it was going to be a gold, I would have already like interact with it. Things that like really disappointed me were things that I was passively like not actually going to enjoy anyway, and I already kind of knew what was heading for me, which is why I just don't run into a lot of stones very often or uh or deep bronze sort of like things. You know what? I kind of want to do the same sort of format for something. Um uh you know honorary platinum, but I'm not actually going to add to this list is the podcast versus Wolves. Um I love listening to that. It's a competitive requesting podcast, as I've kind of told my coworkers before. Because oftentimes I'll just be like listening to it in the background while I'm like cleaning stuff up or like on my break. And it is a fun podcast. I kind of want to sit down and I want to personally review each of the things that they talk about and put it into this sort of format to kind of like show what my personal opinion is of everything that they've ever talked about. But that would require me to actually put down a list for that, and I might do that later. But as of 2025 in a nutshell, oh my gosh, I hated this year. Personally, I've hated everything about this year. So hopefully things go a little bit better next year, but like at least for me mentally and physically, New Year's resolution, I hope to lose a few more pounds. I've let myself go a little bit. I'm not really exercising much as I used to after my surgery, but like I hope to like become more social and get out there. Like I hope that my computer problems can go away. Um I hope to learn a substantial more German. Um um by the way, I if you don't know, I'm learning like 4 or 5 different languages right now. I'm learning to read uh Japanese and Sanskrit. Um I'm I'm learning to speak Hindi and German. I'm relearning Spanish. All of these kind of stuff. It's a very chaotic when it comes to like my language situation. But I need to learn more German relatively soon. Uh, but yeah, I I hope everyone has a good year. And if you've watched to all of this and you've actually enjoyed the sound of my voice, I apologize. I apologize that you have bad taste. Um, in people to listen to. But hey, um, leave a like, leave a comment about what you personally feel like that you would have listed here. I would have put like Donkey Kong if I interacted with it at all somewhere on this list. I kind of feel like that I neglected that very much. I would have added in like a few more movies that I watched, except for I can't really think of them right now, and I didn't write them down on my media thread. Anyway, I will see all of y'all next time. Very comfortable 3 hours. Sorry about that. And I'll see all of y'all next time. Goodbye, everybody.